Episode 6, Awkward Alliance. The battle was pure chaos. Baldur's mercenaries were veterans of 100 battles. Though momentarily startled by the unfamiliar magic and the attacking trees, they quickly reformed their ranks and began to counter with practiced skill. 2 mercenaries used their shields to block Dryas's thorned vines, while others surrounded Borin. Borin fought valiantly. Every time his astra blade, as he, of course, believed it to be, cut through the air, it made a heavy, whistling sound. He knocked one mercenary down with a sweeping blow, only to stagger as the handle of an axe struck his shoulder from the side. He was no match for several opponents at once. Dryas used the power of the forest to press the mercenaries. Vines erupted from the ground to ensnare their ankles, and branches whipped at their faces like scourges. But the mercenaries were tenacious. They cut through the vines and broke the branches, advancing step by step. Baldur, in particular, was rampaging like an enraged bear, smashing everything in his path with his heavy battle axe. In the midst of this pandemonium, Ryan was hiding behind a tree, his mind racing. For him, combat was the last resort. His talents lay in using his tongue and his wits, not a blade. He had to find a way to end this mess. Damn it, he thought, analyzing the battle with rapid precision. If this keeps up, we're all dead. Borin will be fed into a meat grinder. Dryas, well, even she can't fight forever. And me, I'll be the first one torn to shreds. The mercenaries were strong, but they were unfamiliar with the geography of this forest, and their faces were already etched with deep fatigue and fear. They had been wandering this cursed forest for days, tormented by unknown threats. That was the weakness Ryan could exploit. Fear, the most primal emotion capable of paralyzing human reason. Ryan made his decision. He darted out from behind the tree and ran to the edge of the clearing where the fighting was taking place, to a spot where the shadows were deepest. Then, cupping his hands around his mouth, he unleashed a bizarre sound with all his might. It was neither the howl of a wolf nor the roar of a bear. If one had to describe it, it was a terrifying, blood-curdling sound, like a strangled goblin mixed with a horned owl in heat. A sound never before heard on Earth. In the back alleys of Velmore, he had learned a host of miscellaneous skills from all sorts of con artists, actors, and even ventriloquists. Now, he was channeling all of those talents to play the part of an unknown monster. As Ryan's shriek echoed through the forest, everyone, friend and foe alike, momentarily froze. The mercenaries looked around wildly, trying to find the source of the sound. A new layer of fear spread across their already rattled faces. Ryan didn't stop. He dashed through the darkness of the forest, changing his position to make it seem as if they were being surrounded by multiple creatures. He snapped a large branch to mimic the sound of giant footsteps, and chanted what sounded like a meaningless incantation in a low voice. Kaltura, Lacto, Organas. They were, of course, a meaningless string of words. Dryas understood Ryan's intent instantly. She decided to play along with the clever human's act. She closed her eyes and spread her arms. The forest fog began to thicken. It rose from the ground at the mercenaries' feet, obscuring their vision in seconds. Hazy shadows seemed to move within the mist, and Ryan's unholy screams were amplified, creating the illusion that they were coming from all directions. What is this? They're all around us. The mercenaries' formation began to break. The of an unseen threat gnawed at their will to fight. The terrible experiences they had endured in the forest for the past few days came flooding back. Even Balder broke out in a cold sweat at the bizarre situation. He was brave, but he had a superstitious streak. He was beginning to think this forest was truly cursed. Hold the line. Don't break rank, he yelled. But it was too late. One terrified mercenary screamed, threw down his weapon, and started to run. His panic was infectious. One by one, the other mercenaries scattered, fleeing madly back in the direction they had come. But no one listened to him. In an instant, the tide had turned. All that remained were Balder and a couple of his most loyal men. Thorin did not miss the opportunity. He charged again at the disorganized mercenaries. Dryas, too, sent her thorned vines shooting out to snag the ankles of the fleeing men. In the end, even Balder was forced to retreat. He glared into the darkness where Ryan was hiding, his eyes burning with fury and humiliation. I will repay this debt, you little rat, I swear it. He gathered his remaining men and quickly disappeared into the shadows. As their screams and fading footsteps died away, silence returned to the forest. The thick fog slowly began to dissipate. Ryan cautiously stepped out from behind his tree, beads of sweat on his forehead. Thorin rushed over to him and grabbed his shoulders. Ryan, you saved us. What in the world was that monstrous sound? Did you summon a terrifying beast of the forest? Ah, that, Ryan said with a smooth grin. It's a sort of spirit summoning, an ancient art known only to the most learned bards. Dryas approached him. Her face was still impassive, but the way she looked at Ryan was subtly different. In place of wariness, there was a faint glimmer of curiosity and acknowledgement. That tongue of yours, she said in a low voice, it can be more useful than a sword at times. Coming from her, it was the highest form of praise. The crisis had been averted, but the problem was not yet solved. Balder and his men had not vanished completely. They would be somewhere in the forest, sharpening their blades for revenge.